Hi there. Well, welcome to the November fuckery, where I will be going through some of the big transits and each rising sign and what is going to be happening. November has a lot going on. Okay, we've got Mars entering Sagittarius. We've had a full moon in Taurus. Venus is going to jump into Scorpio. The Uranus retrograde is going to take its last little spin through Taurus, finishing up 8 years of chaos. We have got the Mercury retrograde starting. It's going to start in Sag, then it's going to move into Scorpio before it ends. And then we're going to have Jupiter retrograde as well for its retrograde once a year, this time in Cancer. We've got a new moon in Scorpio. We've got Sagittarius season starting. Saturn is finally going to fucking get the hell out of Pisces for 30 years. And Mercury will also station direct. So, with all of that movement, we still have the classic Chiron is still retrograding in Aries, Lilith is still in Scorpio until mid December, Pluto is in Aquarius at 1 degree for the whole month. And we've got the Neptune retrograde in Pisces at the crisis degree of 29. And we've got the North Node still in Pisces and the South Node still in Virgo. So, let's get into this. Let's go per rising sign. So, rising sign is your first house. You will need to have a birth time in order to know what your house system looks like. I'm using whole house, okay? So, go to say Astro-Seek.com, get your birth chart reading. You will need a birth time, okay? If you don't have a birth time, I highly recommend booking a birth chart reading with me and we shall figure it out, because you can really get detailed when it comes to the house system and what the fuck is going on, okay? So, first house, Aries rising. Let's start off with you, my friends. So, Aries rising, my darlings, you have got Chiron retrograding in your first house where it has been for a very fucking long time. Okay. So, how you are showing up in the world, the window that people are seeing you through, your sort of outward reputation is being severely influenced by a childhood wound. Okay. Now, that childhood wound that we're all dealing with collectively is that wound of identity. Okay. So, Aries rising, that is the biggest energy for you that you have been dealing with on and off. Okay. You've currently got Venus in your seventh house as well. So you've got that kind of opposing your energy. All right. So maybe you could be looking at just the way that your childhood wound that affects your identity and how you show up and how that has been kind of running secret authority over your relationships could be a big theme that you are dealing with right now. Okay. So we had that full moon, which happened in your second house of worth, and it could have brought up a lot of issues around money, around stability, around material wealth. And you could have been on either side of it. All right. You really could have been on the side of not having enough, or you need to kind of reel that shit back in because your whole concept of what is important in life is related to material values. Okay. So, you've had, when it comes to your relationship situation, right, that's about to take a bit of a shift, okay? Because for the last month, you've been kind of looking for balance within relationships, and you might have found that there was just a lot of chaos when it came to maybe talking to your neighbors, maybe talking to your siblings, right? Those sorts of relationships, there could have been some chaos going on there. You know, maybe you couldn't find the words to say, right? So, when you're looking at what the full moon showed you, it's potentially showing you where you need to kind of reclaim your inner security, where you need to reclaim your voice, and really where people have potentially been not very fucking honest with you. Okay. So you've been under this influence of having a pretty heavy energy of ancestral energy, as well as that big daddy discipline Saturn has been in your 12th house. Okay. So a lot of secrets trying to get out, right? A lot of trauma memories trying to transform, especially ones about shame and guilt and sexual energy, particularly around relationships that have made you feel shame or guilt about your sexual energy. Okay. And there is a big component of really needing to zoom out on the way that things have been in the past right now, and to not be so self-critical about those things, and to really understand how it's sort of more than just you that caused those situations. And yes, we are taking responsibility for ourselves, but this is kind of the energy of really needing to like lock in when it comes to knowing, loving, and being who the fuck you are. Okay. Especially because you've had Pluto in your 11th house, Aries rising. And so your friend groups are sort of this sounding board for your authentic energy. And up until we had Pluto go direct a few weeks ago, there would have been big lessons in that. You may have really started to notice when people were being disingenuous, when people were wearing masks, okay? And it would have really been asking you, like, are these the sort of people that make you feel confident in the sort of fun that you like to have, right? So we're coming into this shift because Aries rising, you have like Libra energy, like opposes your first house, right? So there is always going to be this bit of a tug of war between how you relate to other people and how you show up as yourself, okay? But Scorpio season has really brought a lot of transformation for everybody through that, but especially for you. And yeah, like we're moving forward. You are going to have Chiron out of your first house middle of next year, but we are still finalizing a lot of that, right? That retrograding back through, revising, reanalyzing, and really trying to understand how the way that we show up in the world and the window that people see us through, how that has actually been kind of run by a wound we thought that we had healed. Okay. So my advice for November, honestly, especially towards the end of it, is go somewhere. Go and travel somewhere. You're going to have way less chaos when it comes to your voice, when it comes to travel towards the end of the month. We're all getting a bit fucked for travel because when Mercury goes retrograde, that's kind of what we're dealing with, especially when it's in Sag. So if we wait until the end of the month, closer towards the end of the month, you really will uplift some kind of spiritual energy, some kind of like inner belief system that needs to be shifted a little bit. Travel will definitely be helping with that. And Saturn is going to start going forward on the 30th. So that will be out of your 12th house. You will not be in such a reminiscing phase of like looking back in the past, because right now you've also got Neptune at 29 degrees there as well. So there is this big, heavy ancestor, generational kind of trauma energy that's really bubbling under your surface, Aries rising. And now that we're moving into Sag season, you really might start feeling like it's time to fight somebody. Maybe that's the time to go and take a little trip. Okay. All right. Who's up next? Taurus rising. Okay, Taurus rising. That full moon that we had on the 6th in your first house should have been making you feel quite shiny. Shiny and new, and really being able to shine, right? And feel beautiful and feel creative and feel connected to the earth, right? You really might have found that, yesterday or over the next couple of days that you're kind of ready to shine, right? And, you would have had a lot of chaos in your money, like money situations, in your self-worth, in really issues around like all of a sudden having to fucking deal with something, or having an epiphany about your self-worth, or having an epiphany about a job as well, could have absolutely been coming up, because part of what you're really doing is kind of going back through the past and really like trying to not be judgmental, I hope, but be a bit analytical about like groups of people and friends and workplaces that just didn't allow you to shine in your authenticity, that didn't allow you to have a lot of fun. You may have had, especially for the last month and maybe for another couple of weeks, a lot of things bubbling up in regards to people who've been fucking deceitful in relationships, okay? And there's potentially times in the past that are also having to be revised now about where you changed who the fuck you are because somebody was being deceitful, because somebody was being manipulative, right? And as we move into Sagittarius season, Taurus rising, that generally, when you're a Taurus rising, that's going to put Sag in your eighth house. So you are really moving into being ready to transform something. And it's very likely to involve your relationships and the way they make you feel about your body, right? That Taurus full moon asking us to be present, asking us to connect with our body. And so for you, Taurus rising, with Libra in your sixth house, you really need to have balance within your body. Okay. You really need to be taking care of that. And, Libra rules over things like the skin and the kidneys and like everything that kind of balances stuff out, right? Like the endocrine system as well. So there really is this need to have balance within how you look after your body. All right. And that would have been coming up. So I'm recording this on the 6th of November. And we've got Venus about to move into Scorpio. So that's going to move Venus from your sixth house to your seventh house. And that's where I think you're really going to start seeing how your worth has been affected by these fake bitches that have been in your one-on-one relationship circles. Okay. Now, it is really difficult for Taurus rising people with that Aries in your 12th house to really see the I am in who you are. And it can be especially difficult to want to put yourself first, right? And especially with the fifth house in Virgo as well. Like, you're somebody who is very like detailed and analytical about how you have your fun, and you probably have to schedule it in, and a lot of the times that probably comes with putting somebody else first. Okay, so we're moving out of some of this really big energy that's been around your relationships, how you feel about your body, and like your friend groups and those sorts of things. We are moving away from that, and it's going to start becoming a little bit easier. So the full moon probably lit up some of the issues that you really needed to be dealing with when it comes to not feeling secure and safe and loved within your body. Okay, now you are about to have, so on the 8th, you are about to have Uranus move into your first house. Okay, so if we think back to the last 8 years, okay, because Uranus in Taurus, that started in May 2018. So in May 2018, Uranus moved into your first house and started bringing some fucking chaos and some change and you probably have changed the way you've shown up in the world. Maybe your look has changed. Maybe your job, how people are seeing you is very likely to have changed, especially, the workplace, definitely over the last year. You've kind of changed who you are within that space as well. Okay. So communication comes through for you much easier when there's an emotional understanding between parties, right? And so as we sort of move into this space where you're like reviewing the last 8 years of changes that have really been made to your outward reputation and to like the window that people see you through, part of that review is going to involve having to look at the ways in which your family kind of programmed some of those things into you. Okay. And if you have been, because Taurus energy can really hold on to things, and you might have been battling back, shaving your head, dyeing your hair, doing something with your external look that you haven't really wanted to change. You've been holding on very fucking tightly. I think you're about to feel ready to do that. Okay, Taurus rising, I think you can book the appointment, buy the hair dye, whatever it is, get the outfit. You're about to start having a little bit more chaotic, fun energy in your first house. And, you might just wake up one day and want a different colored hair. So get yourself prepared, okay? Get yourself prepared. Okay. Gemini or Rising, you poor chaotic bastards, okay? You are about to get a little bit of a break, okay? You have had Uranus in your first house since July, okay? And all of that has really been forcing some sudden insight, some sudden change, a lot of things moving around in your life. Okay. You've been really looking at the way in which your family affects your self worth, how your family affects your money and your security. Okay. And there's been a lot of analytical deep dives and family bullshit coming up, right? Especially stuff from the past. And you've been really kind of looking into where is the balance of me in these big family relationships. Okay. Now, you've probably, and if you haven't, you're likely to be starting to really feel it, but you are moving into a space, right? So the sun and Lilith and Venus, as of tonight, are going to be in your sixth house. So you might start feeling a little bit more spicy. Okay. And you're really going to have to start paying attention to what your body is trying to tell you. Okay. Now, the sun is really helpful when it comes into whatever house it's in, right? So you are currently, the sun is in your sixth house and then it will move into your seventh house, which is really going to tell the story of how you feel in your body, specifically about your sexual energy, to be honest. And a lot of you would have already been kind of questioning some of the relationships that you've had, whether they meet your needs, right? Whether they meet your emotional needs, whether they meet your sexual needs. Maybe you thought you were straight and now you're like, oh, maybe not, right? Maybe you thought you wanted a long-term partner and now you're like, no, I don't, right? Maybe you've been in a relationship for a very long time that's been very samey and all of a sudden it's taken this step forward, okay? So what you want to be revisiting over this next month is really tapping into what your body is telling you and how safe and secure and loved and nurtured you are feeling, especially around your partners, okay? So Mars is currently in your seventh house, which is bringing a lot of motivation, right? Might be bringing a lot of rage if you've got someone that you're dealing with that pisses you off. You could also be getting those sexual vibes coming through, right? Because Mars is our sexual energy, and so in your seventh house, especially for you, Sagittarius, because you're a little bit, seventh house Sagittarius, depending on the rest of your birth chart, you could maybe you're non-monogamous, right? Maybe you're going to have a new partner kind of coming in. Maybe you're introducing your current partner to somebody else, but there's a very big spicy kind of energy around. And so for you, Gemini rising, that could really be, you could be finding it in your relationships, or you could be realizing that you don't have it in your relationships and that you actually fucking need it. Okay. Now, I would also be advising like learning something new. Okay. You've got Aquarius in your ninth house. And Pluto is now going forward there, right? So Pluto is in your ninth house, and there could be some kind of something you wanted to learn that you didn't even realize you wanted to learn, and like get onto that. All right. Now you have had a whole lot of fuckery going on in your career, right? At work, and your idea of career and your idea of legacy and what you're leaving behind, your social reputation, right? You might have had way too many meetings with your boss. You might have told someone at work to go fuck themselves. Okay. There's been a lot of energy in that space. And right now, there is a lot of energy. And part of what is happening is because we've got Neptune at 29 degrees in your 10th house, Gemini rising, this is really, you are letting go and healing some past fucking wounds when it comes to the workplace, right? When it comes to who you have been showing up as in the workplace. And you've really taken responsibility for things. And if you haven't, you fucking better, because you're running out of time, right? You should have really been taking responsibility for like not being happy at work, for being at a job that isn't paying you well, for being at a job where you're constantly fighting with people and you're not feeling valued, all of those sorts of things absolutely have been very loud for you, Gemini rising, if you've got that Pisces in your 10th house. But Saturn will station direct in your 10th house at the end of the month, right? On the 28th, when Saturn stations direct, that's going to give you some forward moving finally. So if you've been in a bit of a stuck kind of vibe with work, like maybe you need to leave but you can't get another job, maybe you're waiting for a promotion to come through, maybe you want to quit but you can't because you don't have anywhere else to go, all of those sorts of things, we're going to get some forward movement. All right, Gemini rising, hang in there. We're getting that forward movement. Now, you've probably also found that like friendships or hanging out with a lot of people has dropped off as well. That's been kind of a collective energy. But for you, Gemini rising, that's because you've got Chiron retrograding in your 11th house. And so, as you are sort of coming to terms with some of your childhood wound situations and how they've run authority over your life, you are like likely unmatching, if you will, with some of the people that you would have normally been friends with. So you've needed to really pull back so that you can like renew, so that you can go forward and find the people that you are meant to be friends with. Right now, that Taurus full moon was in your fucking 12th house. So anything that you've been kind of hiding from yourself in regards to your self worth, right? Your shadow stuff, your fears, your hidden power, all of those sorts of dark, shadowy, mystical things, that full moon shone a big fucking bright light in there. So just keep that in mind, that over the next couple of days, because you're about to have Uranus enter that 12th house as well. So that whatever the full moon has shown you, you're about to have some fucking chaos, right? Because we had Uranus enter Taurus in May of 2018, and it moved into Gemini on the 6th of July, 2025. And it is about to do its final retrograde through Taurus. So it is doing its final little review of your 12th house. Okay. But because it's going from Gemini to Taurus, it's going to be trying to show you some stuff about the way that you show up to people and how your shadow has some kind of control over that. And that shadow of yours that decides whether or not you're worthy of things. Okay. Whether you're worthy of nurturing. And a lot of that shit has come from your family, okay? Because they were very likely fucking critical as shit, either about your whole entire being or very specific parts of who you are as a person, okay? And we are letting that shit go. Okay. Cancer rising, you up next, my friends. So you've had a lot of good energy in your first house, right? So you might have been finding that your reputation has taken a really good turn, that you've had a little bit more luck with how you've wanted to be seen, that you're feeling a little bit more shiny, that you're feeling a little bit more, of that self-nurturing kind of self. Okay. You maybe have been feeling a lot better about going and being around people. Okay. Because seventh house in Capricorn, not very big on just like strangers, right? Like, because you are someone who is quite analytical with how they speak, you do have kind of a healing tone to you, right? Your family did teach you a little bit about relationships and like give and take and balance. But, you've probably got a bit of a little bit of a dark soul when it comes to the sort of fun that you like. And, you can be quite direct and quite fiery. And, you do need to have stable friends. So you're not someone who's really for strangers, but you may have felt a little bit better about being around strangers over the last few months, okay? While Jupiter has been in Cancer in your first house. Now, he is about to retrograde in your first house. And don't panic, because a Jupiter retrograde is not a bad thing, okay? A Jupiter retrograde is just here to let us kind of go back over what we've been doing, right? So if we think back to the start of June, when Jupiter moved into Cancer, then we're sort of just going back through that. Like, what did I like about that? What felt good about that? And for you, Cancer rising, this is about like the window that you let people see you through. How did you feel about that? How is that window affected by past family dynamics? Okay. Because that is a component to it too, right? Like, we have had a little bit going on in regards to Aries energy, which has been your social reputation. So you might have really been dealing with some sort of not really knowing who you want to be at work, and really maybe going back to something that you didn't want to go back to, or like really facing some kind of karmic energy for staying in a job that you shouldn't have stayed in. Okay. Now, this Taurus full moon happened in your 11th house, which is actually quite a nice place for this moon to happen, and was really lighting up where you need to be maybe a little bit more present when it comes to your friends, your groups of people, and really, like, hopefully you got the full expression of it, which is that we get to kind of look forward into the future and really understand what it is that you want to get out of the future. Where's the stability? And 11th house Taurus really brings that hard work for reward into the future, right? And this is where, like, you would be a pretty great friend, Cancer Rising, because you are very stable in groups of people and in friendships. You are willing to really work hard to get to know somebody as long as they're doing it back. Okay. Now, you hopefully are having some fun, right? Some pleasure. Maybe you're out. Maybe this is where you've kind of found your feet and you're maybe like out casual dating. But there's been a lot of stuff around you needing to kind of let go of any shame around what you like to do for fun, right? Especially within relationships. And we're sort of moving now. Mars is in your 6th house and Venus is going to be in your 5th house for a little bit now. And the sun's going to enter your 6th house on the 22nd. So there's going to be a lot more motivating energy towards your pleasure, right? Especially your spicy pleasure, okay? Because this is where you are really being asked to transform something about you that needs to be fucking authentic, okay? Something about you that you've been kind of pushing down and hiding from, right? And especially because your inner belief system has been absolutely drowning because Saturn has been retrograding there. Neptune is currently there at 29 degrees. You might find Cancer Rising that you've been having a really fucking spiritual, like just spiritual download, right? One after the other, because you've also had that chaos, Gemini, in your 12th house, right? So Uranus has been in your 12th house just bringing havoc. And you might have found that, like, maybe you weren't a very spiritual person. And then, like, over the last, 6 to 12 months, maybe even looking back over a couple of years, you've really started to like notice some shit that you can't not notice. And this year might have brought some big epiphany moments when it comes to your whole entire kind of spiritual self and the side of you that you haven't really spent a lot of time with. Okay. So really be using November to find your authenticity, especially within relationships, and don't feel shame or guilt about the sort of dark, maybe spicy fun that you enjoy. Okay. It's a really great time to be leaning into it. All right. Up next, Leo Rising. Leo Rising. Not bad, but you have had Pluto retrograding in opposition with your 1st house. So you have been really challenged to show up authentically without ego. Okay. Really would have been facing a big fucking tug of war situation in the how you think people want to see you and how you think people will enjoy you versus how you actually want to show up. Okay. Especially relationships, right? Like the authenticity that has been required in relationships, you may have been dealing with having to look back at the past quite a bit when it comes to that. All right. Now, you're definitely too judgmental of like things like, am I worthy of love? Am I worthy of abundance? Am I worthy of success? And that has been really, really being pushing to transform, right? Because you've had Saturn retrograding in your 8th house of transformation. You've got Neptune there currently at 29 degrees. So all of this like ancestral generational fucking bullshit, like, and the traumatic past of your family, because honestly, with the 4th house in Scorpio, you're either from a fucking pack of witches or a hell of a lot of trauma. Okay. You hold a Leo rising person has a lot of placements that lead to that show me generational trauma. Okay. Now you're very absorbent to your family's lies, right? And their guilt and their shame. You're also someone who keeps a lot of their nurturing hidden, like fucking hidden. You're probably not big on nurturing yourself. You're probably not big on like overly nurturing other people. And you're probably keeping that just for the right people. And I'm not judging you about that. But some of the stuff that you've been dealing with actually belongs to your family, actually belongs to the ancestors. Okay. So you've had Venus in your 3rd house, which has been really nice for being able to communicate. That's going to move out of there. And we're going to have Venus move into your 4th house. With Lilith and the sun there, that could really bring up some hectic shit from your family spaces or your ancestral spaces. Okay. So make sure you're really taking some time to enjoy yourself. I would go on a little bit of a trip, a little bit of a travel, especially towards the end of the month. Okay. Because Mars is in your 5th house, so it's giving you a little bit of motivation to enjoy yourself. And the sun will join Mars on the 22nd. And so that's going to bring a bit of light to how you have fun, what you want to do, right? So lean into that energy because you got Pluto going forward in your 7th house, which could be ending relationships, to be honest, especially ones that you've held on to that you really fucking shouldn't have. And very likely could be work, okay? Because 10th house in Taurus, you're likely to stay at a job that you fucking shouldn't, right? But you are here to fucking make money, right? 10th house Taurus. That's money, right? So that full moon maybe gave you some epiphanies about work, maybe gave you some epiphanies about what you want to be doing and really lit you up. Maybe you went and did a proposal on that day, okay? So really be using that energy. You are going to have a bit of fuckery in there, especially if you have been ignoring something that needed to change over the last 8 years, because Uranus is going to start retrograding in your 10th house as of tomorrow, the 8th. And that's going to give your friendships and your groups of people a little bit of a fucking break from the chaos. But yeah, with Jupiter in your 12th house and Jupiter about to retrograde, you could really have a lot more spiritual fuckery coming through. Okay, I highly advise you to start some sort of spiritual routine. And if you have not Libra Rising, go and get a birth chart reading and come and get one. Okay. I would probably also advise you to go and get, or you can come and see me actually. Come and see me and get a tarot reading as well, because I could almost guarantee you've got some spiritual messages that need to come through, especially with, Jupiter about to go retrograde. Okay. All right. Who's next? Virgo Rising. Virgo Rising, stop judging yourself and how you look and how other people see you. Okay, you need to zoom the fuck out on that and you need to actually see how people are seeing you in relationships. Okay, now there is been a really heavy energy in your relationship house, right? You might have been digging up a lot of traumas about past relationships. You might have had to take responsibility for bullshit behavior in past relationships. You might be taking responsibility for the fact that you stayed with someone who didn't treat you very well. Okay. You may have been really experiencing that quite heavily in your body with Pluto in your 6th house. He's forward motion now, so hopefully you've been released from any kind of weird shit going on with your body. But, your family space is likely to be getting a little bit fighty. Fighty, right? A little bit of extra rage coming into that family space, right? You're probably from a family who usually is quite optimistic, but who will, fight you if they fucking have to. And you are also probably someone who's like, well, you want to poke me around, fine, you do it, but you touch my fucking family and it's on, right? So I would suggest there's been a few secrets coming up in your family, Virgo Rising, okay? Maybe some inner secrets with how that affected your life, but also with the sun and Lilith and Venus about to be in your 3rd house, just be careful with what you are saying, okay? Because Mercury will be retrograding through your 3rd and 4th house, and that is going to be trying to uncover some family secrets. And if you are the one with a holder of secrets, I would speak now or go on a holiday until December. Because there is just going to be some karmic energy rolling through at the end of this month. So if you have been dishonest in one-on-one relationships, if you have been dishonest with your partner, and that doesn't have about it. It might just be that you haven't spoken up about something traumatic. It might just be that you haven't spoken up about your emotions, but that shit is about to come out. Okay. That is about to come out. You've had Chiron retrograding in your 8th house. So you've been really asked to let go of childhood wound stuff, right? Like your childhood wounds and how they affect who you are as a person. Part of that story actually affects your ability to put yourself first, right? Actually affects your ability to be able to bring your vision to life. Okay. So that Taurus full moon happened in your 9th house, and you may have had a spiritual time. You might still be having a spiritual time if you're watching this, because we're still in that Taurus full moon energy. Okay. It is the 6th of November. So look, career as well has probably been a bit fucking chaotic, right? It probably has been. So Virgo Rising, you're going to get a bit of a break. There's going to be a little bit more stability with work for a few months. I can't tell you that it's going to be like a long term, because it's not, right? You've got about 7 to 8 years of evolving your career space. And that doesn't mean you're going to be changing jobs all the time, but it might mean that you have to really deal with a lot of feelings coming up that maybe you're not in the right job. Okay. Like it can be anything along those lines, just depending on the rest of your chart. So you've got Uranus in there currently, but in a couple of days on the 8th, it's going to move into your 9th house. So any kind of maybe you wanted to study something 8 years ago and you didn't take it up. Now's a really good time to do that. There's going to be some stuff coming through that you haven't dealt with in the last 8 years, 7 to 8 years, in regards to your inner belief system and how it is that you judge yourself. And that shit needs to be sorted out. Okay. Especially when it comes to relationships, that's going to be huge. You're moving next year. When we come out of the Virgo Pisces nodes, we're moving into the Aquarius Leo. And for you, that's going to be a south node in your 12th house. Okay. So that's going to be a lot of overthinking about the past. That's going to be really asking you to see where you've held back your personal expression. Okay. And where your fucking confidence is. Right. So just be very fucking aware of that. Okay. Libra rising. You got Venus moving out of your first house tonight, okay? And that was probably nice having Venus in your first house, right? Libra ruled by Venus, your first house being ruled by its favorite planet. Very nice, very balanced. I hope that you've really been able to fucking shine and get yourself seen. Although that would have had to involve facing a bit of guilt and shame, facing a bit of the parts of you that you reject, really kind of locking in on what your worth is, and to really stop rejecting how you see yourself worthy of things. Okay. Now, you're probably from, your family space being, you like it to be organized. You're probably from an organized, maybe rules, very strict kind of rule-based family. And you probably, you're very direct with your communication, and you probably feel a bit weird about the things that you like, especially when it comes to your family space, right? And that's because, you're somebody who really, your best I am energy, who I am, is going to come out in the right relationship. And so if you've been in the wrong relationship, then that's going to be really messy, because you've got Chiron retrograding in your 7th house right now, which is kind of asking you to look at the childhood wound and how that has had authority over the sorts of relationships that you're in. Okay. Now, with the 6th house in Pisces, you may have been a bit unwell up and down over the past few years. Now, 6th house in Pisces can be really rough when it comes to trauma. Okay. Because it can physically affect your body for as long as it's mentally affecting your body and emotionally and spiritually affecting your body. But Saturn is retrograding currently in your 6th house. So you are being asked to get some more fucking routine, especially around how you care for your body, especially around how you care like for its health, for its spiritual health, for its mental health, for its emotional health, taking fucking responsibility of that, okay? Because Neptune is also there at 29 degrees and it's bringing this crisis energy, and that can feel very heavy, especially, Pisces in the 6th house can be a very heavy energy, and it really absorbs a lot of trauma from people, and that is going to sit heavily in your body. So some of the routines that you need to have are going to have to be spiritual routines, emotionally cleansing routines. And that's kind of where the pressure is kind of coming from now, is that Neptune at 29 degrees in your 6th house. So be very careful and listen to what your body is telling you and trust your intuition. And if it's telling you to rest, fucking rest, okay? Because that full moon that we had on the 6th, which is today when I'm recording it, so earlier today, that was in your 8th house of transformation. So something is transforming for you, okay? Something around, it could be something around your money, but it could be something around your worth, okay? So really listening to your body, really being able to hone in on what it's telling you is going to be very fucking important, okay? Because the way that you judge yourself is way too harsh, right? Your inner critic is way too harsh. And you probably can't even see how helpful and healing and of service you are to people. And you probably feel a lot like nobody thinks you're being helpful, and you overgive. Okay. Now, you've got some good luck in the workplace. Okay. Now, if you've had some wild kind of stuff going on in the workplace, you're about to be given like a little bit of a window of revision. Okay. Because you've got Jupiter in your 10th house, it's going to start retrograding on the 12th, and that's just going to slow that down. It's going to slow it down a little bit. So, like, if you're someone, because like with a chart like this, right, everything running to plan, you could be having like a business about to fucking boom, right? Your own business could be about to boom. You might be about to get a promotion, right? Like, it's that sort of energy. That's the journey that you're currently on, right? And so the more that you can clean out people that make you feel unworthy of success, the better, right? The more people that you can clean out that you kind of fake having fun with, the better. Because with this Jupiter retrograde slowing things down, it's going to allow you to kind of look at some of the details that have shifted within the last few months around your career, around your legacy, around, you know, your social reputation and everything to do with work. So lean into that stuff, right? Take advantage of the fact that Jupiter is in your 10th house of career and legacy, and follow the rest of the energy. There is something authentic that you need to be doing for fun that is also going to be part of your spiritual and emotional habits that help you not absorb so much bullshit. The more bullshit that you absorb, the less worthy you feel of success, okay? And constantly in your head, constantly is investing in things, is like, how do I make this long-term money? There is this, your whole concept of whether or not you have a legacy, or whether or not you have investment money, or whether or not you have that sort of, uh, you know, capital, is likely to always be in your fucking mind, right? But what you don't realize is that when you feel badly about that, like if an investment doesn't work out, or, you know, the house you want to buy doesn't, you know, come through, that affects your self-worth, and those two things will fuck your chances of money. Okay. So be working on those things. All right. Where are we at? Scorpio Rising. I mean, you should be feeling spicy. And I'm pretty sure I said this on the last rising sign video that I did, but you've had the sun and Lilith, and you're about to have Venus in your first house. So hopefully you're starting to feel good about the way that people are seeing you. Okay. And that's only going to be happening if you have been able to release the guilt, the shame, the worry of being seen as, you know, not who you are, being misunderstood, right? Any kind of parts of you that you've rejected, like you might really have found that since we've started getting into Scorpio season, that you're feeling a lot better about showing your dark, spicy kind of energy, right? Really connecting to that dark kind of feminine energy. And, you know, you've got Mars in your second house now. So there is forward movement around your self-worth, forward movement around like your worth in general. And the sun's going to join Mars on the 22nd. That's going to really bring some bright energy into that. I would travel. I would go on a little trip and just really shake up that money energy, because that full moon that we had was in your relationship house. Okay. So it was kind of showing you where you may be holding on to something in a relationship that needs to be let go of. And the reason that you're not letting go of it is because you're worried that someone's going to see you in not the right light. Okay. So you've got Chiron retrograding in your 6th house, which could be bringing up some kind of health issues that you've maybe been dealing with for a long time, maybe intestinal kind of stuff. There is a need for you to go and have some fun just for the sake of having fun, right? And not with anybody else, just for you, and really start taking responsibility on that time, on you time. What do you want, right? Like, so much of your energy, like when you're going out to have fun, it attracts trauma, right? So you're the sort of person that, like, you go out and you're trying to have a good time with a group of people, and that fucking group of people are going to trauma dump on you, and that's going to ruin everything, right? And then what that does is, because your 11th house is in Virgo and the South Node is there right now, that makes you kind of go into the self-critical spiral around like what you did wrong. Okay, because your 12th house in Libra, it kind of says that you can't really see the balance in relationships. You can't really see how much you give in relationships. And like you can't see how other people are actually reacting to the way that you show up. So then you go into this judgment spiral. Now, you've also got a lot of energy in your ninth house. So you might feel like studying something new, fucking go for it, especially if it's spiritual or like emotional, like some kind of counseling thing. Like you are here to be a boss kind of energy. All right. And your career is going to take a massive fucking shift next year. It's going to be, you're going to learn how to go towards like what you're supposed to be doing for career, but it will come through having to learn lessons from the past. And some of those lessons are going to involve the way that your family made you feel like a fucking weirdo, right? So you need to start working on that now. You really need to start letting the weirdo out. And I know you've got one, Scorpio rising. I fucking know you do. So really start letting that out. Start listening to your body and doing what it wants you to do. Right? If it feels shit around someone, don't be around them. If it needs to go and cry, go and cry. If it needs to go and party and do it on your own if you have to. Okay. The full moon would have lit up your great relationships and it probably lit up your fucking terrible ones too. And if you have been like quite on your own, which a lot of Scorpio energy has been doing that very recently, like really pulling back from people, then that full moon may have shown you where you're a little bit lonely, where you've maybe confused solitude and loneliness, and you didn't realize that you were enjoying solitude, and then all of a sudden it was loneliness, and then you've gone into a bit of a fucking spiral of like, well, people don't like me, and you've pulled back even further, and you've rejected more of yourself. So we're trying to do the opposite of that, and as we move further through November, that's going to get a little bit easier because you will have Saturn starting to go forward in your house of fun. And that's going to make it a little bit easier to sort of relate to people without having to carry a lot of fucking dark bullshit, right? And up next, Saggy Rising. Saggy Rising. How are your relationships going, Sag Rising? They're about to get a little fucking break. They're about to get a little break, okay? So you've got Mars now in your first house. So you probably just started feeling a little kick of motivation. You might have just started to feel like you're kind of really digging yourself and how you look, or maybe you want to change something, right? Maybe you, and you probably will figure that out this month, right? If you're like, oh, I'm not about what my hair looks like, or I'm not about what my outfits are, right? That sort of shit is about to change because you've got Mars there. The sun's going to jump in there on the 22nd and it's going to help you light that shit up. And as I always say about Saggy energy, if something feels stuck, just go on a little trip, go on a drive, go on a walk, go somewhere you've never been. Sag energy fucking loves that shit, right? And like 10th house Virgo, so you very right now you're being too self-critical of work related things, right? Maybe your business isn't doing as well as you want. Maybe you think you should be making more money. Maybe you are judging yourself and not getting a promotion. Okay, there's a lot of energy around that space that you need to zoom out on, right? You need to see the bigger picture. And like you've been dealing with a fucking lot, to be honest, right? A lot of trauma shit, right? Sag rising people, you generally will have Pisces in your 4th house, Cancer in your 8th house, and Scorpio in your 12th house, which Sag rising makes you a pretty fucking magical human being, right? There is a lot of spiritual energy that comes through with Sagittarius rising, especially like if that is where everything sits, okay? So you just need to release the criticism that you have of yourself when it comes to whether or not you're working hard enough. Step 1. Step 2, you need to realize that you're from an ancestral line of trauma, right? Probably running through the mother line, okay? And that you have had Saturn retrograding in your 4th house. So mother issues, family trauma issues, all of those things have been very fucking loud. And they're trying to move you forward into what your family space should feel like. But Neptune also there at 29 degrees is bringing a bit of a crisis moment to these big traumatic ancestral and generational endings that you've got going on, especially related to your mother line. Okay. Now, you've probably always felt like the way you communicate, people don't quite understand it. That's fine. Okay. You've got a 3rd house in Aquarius. You just speak what you need to speak, okay? Because don't hold back being worried what other people are going to think about it, because the people that need to hear you will fucking hear you. You've got Pluto in your 3rd house now. So bringing up a lot of shadow shit about your voice and where it maybe wasn't heard. Okay. My advice is to go and have some fucking fun. You've got Chiron retrograding in your 5th house, and your idea of fun needs to be from an I am perspective. So you need to look at how your childhood wound stops you from wanting to have fun. And part of that is going to be because you absorb a lot of fucking dark energy from people, even when you are having fun. And that's why you've had a lot of chaos in your fucking relationship house, is because something has shifted and those people are not your fucking people anymore. Okay. Your whole concept of family is transforming, and you are really being asked to expand just all of the concepts around family, right? Because you're from a traumatic family. So you need to like really look at the people in your life who actually are what you think family should be, who are actually nurturing, who are actually offering you security. So we're going into a Jupiter retrograde. That's going to be happening in your 8th house. So things have felt like they've been moving really quickly. We're going to slow them down just a little bit. We're going to slow them down just a little bit. And your relationships are going to get less chaotic for a few months, but your body may get more chaotic. Build some habits right now. Okay. Health habits are going to become really important. All right. Now, if you think about what that full moon was showing you, so yesterday, today, tomorrow, what that full moon was showing you is what the language of your body is, what it speaks, how it talks to you, and how it is telling you who to trust and who not to trust. Okay. Your body is a huge piece of information when it comes to that. All right. So, yeah, lean into Sagittarius season and just let your truest weirdo shine and just release, release, release music, creativity as much as possible to really let this old family energy get the fuck out of your body. Okay. Capricorn rising. I mean, poor old Capricorns. You have Pluto in your first house for 16 years. You have Jupiter opposing your Capricorn first house, and like your planet Saturn, he been in and out of Pisces and Aries, Pisces and Aries, Pisces and Aries. So you're a little bit kind of confused about what the window is. How are people seeing me? You probably had a massive shift in how people are seeing you. Maybe you were working and now you're not working. Maybe you weren't working and now you are, right? Because there's been a big shift in your ruling energy of that first house. You've also kind of come out of 16 years worth of fuckery with how people are seeing you. And, you've got Aquarius in your second house and Pluto is there now. So we've got forward motion, thank fuck, and it's really likely to be bringing up some shadow stuff around your worthiness, which you probably have been made to feel really fucking weird about, to be honest. And you're probably from a family that is quite fiery and direct, and the way you communicate is not really like that. Okay, you probably are a little bit different to the rest of your family when it comes to communication, and there's been some pretty heavy energy on that. You might have also been dealing with some stuff with your siblings, maybe some problems with your neighbors as well. Maybe your tech has been fucked, like just a whole lot of bullshit going on in regards to communication for you. And that's because you don't really communicate like everyone else anyway. But recently, the energy has been very fucking heavy. And right now, Neptune at 29 degrees in your third house is very likely bringing everything to a head, especially because some of the stuff that you don't really show anybody and you maybe can't see about yourself, Mars has just entered in there. The sun's going to be there on the 22nd, and that stuff's going to start getting really loud, that shadow stuff, right? Now, a lot of chaos in the body as well, right? So whatever your body has been telling you to do, I hope you've been listening. Your body is about to have a little break, okay? So hopefully you've got some habits in place and you're about to really kind of be forced into having some fun. Sorry. Does that sound like a bad time? But you are. You're going to be forced into having some fun because Uranus is just about to retrograde back into your 5th house. Okay. So if you think about the time period from May 2018 until July 2025, were you having enough fun? What sort of fun were you having? Do you even know what you like to do for fun? Do you? Bet you don't. Capricorn rising. So, I mean, relationships for you and balancing relationships is really easy in the workplace, right? But in your personal relationships, not so much because you require a lot of security and love and nurturing and understanding when it comes to your relationships. And if you don't have an emotional connection with that person, you're definitely not going to be able to communicate with them because your communication has to be through this like emotional, intuitive space. And so if that person doesn't know you on an emotional level, no, thank you. No. You're also very fucking absorbent to people's lying bullshit in groups of people, in friends, right? Those sorts of energies have been very fucking loud for you as well, right? Like anywhere that you didn't believe your intuition, hopefully has taught you a lesson, okay? Venus is about to move into your 11th house. That's going to probably start calling in your actual friends, like these new people that can be coming in. And hopefully you've balanced out whatever it was that you were fucking dealing with relationship wise while Venus was in your 10th house of career. Okay. So any sort of career fuckery, hopefully that's sorting itself out. But stop judging yourself so harshly when it comes to, like, quite literally, your inner belief system is way too harsh. Like, is way too harsh. All right. It's okay. It's okay to not show up perfect and organized and hardworking all of the time. It's okay. All right. That's what you need to start learning. Right now, you've got Jupiter about to retrograde in your 7th house. So you're really going to be able to take stock of your relationships, the good ones, the bad ones, the good parts, the bad parts, and just really enjoy family time. Right. Like family time. And that doesn't just, like, if you don't have a partner and kids, I don't mean that. Right. Like, I mean the people that make you feel secure and safe and loved and nurtured. All right. So just lean into that. Okay. Hopefully the Taurus full moon has given you like a bit of a hit, right? Because that full moon is happening in your 5th house. So hopefully you've really been able to enjoy that. And yeah, with Gemini in your 6th house and Uranus about to move out of that 6th house, you are going to get a little bit of a break. But Gemini obviously ruled by Mercury, Mercury about to go retrograde. So keep that in mind because that could also give you some fuckery in the body. All right. Who's next? Aquarius Rising. Okay. Aquarius Rising. Let me move my notes over. You got Pluto in your 1st house. Okay. So since November last year, you've had Pluto in your 1st house, really trying to uncover like the true window that you want people to see you through. There's been a lot of transformation in that. A lot of like your other side starting to come out, right? You might have found that the version of you that you were before November, there's been changes made to the external. Okay. Now, a lot of that is relating to the fact that you've had Saturn in your 2nd house. You've got the North Node in your 2nd house, and you've got Neptune right now, 29 degrees in your 2nd house. So there is this massive pressure on worth. Okay. On worth, probably related a lot to financial worth as much as it is personal worth, like your own self-worth, right? Because like with a 4th house in Taurus, there is like security issues within your family, right? So either you had a family that was like very stubborn about how it lived, and that's where the security was like lock in, don't let anything go, or the complete opposite, very financially unstable, right? But like finances linked to you feeling worthy, linked to how your family made you feel worthy, right? And you're very self-critical of yourself, right? 8th house in Virgo. So the way that you change, you are very judgmental about the way that you change. You probably have felt a number of times throughout your life that you are unworthy of having success with friendships or success with work because you are constantly evolving and you judge yourself very harshly for that, okay? Because there's a number of things that make that evolution kind of happen a lot, right? Firstly, Aquarius, your 1st house in Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus does that, right? Uranus is sudden change, sudden epiphanies. And so it's like, oh, the window that people see me through and that I want people to see me through is changed. So if that's changed, then all of these other things need to change. But then you're losing people, and that 4th house in Taurus, it wants to hold on. It wants to hold on. And so then because you're losing people, then okay, well then that 8th house in Virgo, the transformation in that Virgo energy, it kick in, right? And you start judging yourself, especially since September last year, because you've had the South Node there, right? We've had South Node eclipses. You probably had a lot of things change between the end of August and the end of September. Internally, a lot of things changing. You are kind of in this space right now, career-wise, where you're sort of starting to see how there were parts of you that you felt shame about. There were parts of you that you felt guilty about or that you rejected about yourself that are actually like you need those things, right? Venus is about to enter your 10th house. That's going to help with this money situation. The sun's already there. Venus is going to enter it, and that's going to help, right? But there is something about how you do or don't feel worthy of long-term finances and security, And there is also some kind of guilt and shame around not being able to like lock into something, right? Aquarius first house, mate, you are constant evolution. That is who you are. And that can be really difficult because you've got usually Aquarius rising, you got a 7th house in Leo, which means that like there is like a need for you to be able to like really creatively express yourself in personal relationships. And when you're constantly changing, you then change the way that you express yourself in personal relationships. And people that are kind of fearful of change, they're not going to like that, right? And you're also someone, Aquarius rising, who the way that you have fun is very changeable as well. Like a 5th house in Gemini, and you've had Uranus there since July. So, like, what you thought was fun and what is fun is probably changing as well. And like 6th house Cancer, right? So, your body is telling you when you're emotionally fucked, okay? Because you absorb all of these emotions and you don't talk about them, and when you don't talk about them, they're going to overwhelm your system. They're going to affect your whole entire system, all right? And so when we're looking at these energies, like the way you transform and how you treat your body are very closely fucking linked. And so Jupiter is about to retrograde in that 6th house. And that is the time for you to revisit habits, like healthy habits, very much related to how you're processing your emotions and the sort of food you're putting in, right? And how much movement you're doing. Those things need to be really looked at over the next couple of months, because while Jupiter is there, everything is being expanded. Like you might have started to notice a few things about your health or about your emotions or about your mental stability, or you might have some spiritual shit going on. Like all of those things are going to require some little habits for you, because your actual energy of transformation, 8th house in Virgo, it needs habits. Like building habits around starting new things and moving towards new things is definitely the fucking way to go. Okay. Now, 10th house Scorpio. So you are here to be able to earn money just fucking existing, right? Like to just be able to build something that can be invested in, but it's so linked to the way that your family made you feel about money that it really depends on how much of that you've dealt with, right? If you were from a family who just spend, didn't save, then you need to be figuring out how to save, right? And if you were from a family who just saved, then you need to figure out how to be okay with spending, right? Money is just energy. And the way that it sits in your chart, Aquarius rising, it puts a lot of emphasis on either not spending it or spending it way too much, right? So the full moon would have brought up something around worthiness, or it will over the next couple of days. And that's very likely to show you some family stuff and like really start making some sense of it. Now, fun's going to be a little bit less chaotic, but your family stuff is going to be chaotic. Look back over the last 8 years, specifically from May 2018, and really have a think about how your mentality around worth and stability and security and money, how that has moved from 2018 until July this year. What's been going on in that space? And what do you need to still notice, realize, and evolve through? Okay, there is some kind of revolution energy coming in that family space, and it's going to help you really release. And because we had this full moon, and because we've got a Scorpio new moon at the end of this month, we want to be working on that now, so that Scorpio new moon is quite literally planting the seed of the career that you want to be moving into, of the legacy that you want to be moving into, and learning how to invest in yourself. Okay. 11th house in Sag, Mars moving there. Mars is there now. Sun's moving there on the 22nd. So go on a little trip. If you can see a friend, do that, or go somewhere that you haven't been with a friend. Get a group of people together. Go and do that. That's going to be great. That'll really help you, right? Move into the future. That would be my advice. Okay. Now don't be holding back your voice either. Okay. Because 3rd house in Aries, you've had Chiron retrograding there. So childhood wounds around that. Around you using your voice, not using it properly, thinking that no one wants to hear it, especially if you have a Gemini and Chiron in your birth chart, okay? Be using your voice more. Be using your voice more, okay? Saturn's going to get the fuck out of your 2nd house in a few months, okay? Saturn and Neptune and the North Node are all on the way out. So we are moving through this energy of worthiness, this energy of money, and really realizing that it's your creativity that makes money. So the more weird you are, the more you allow yourself to be who you fucking are, the closer you are to that fucking 10th house Scorpio fucking making money, right? And last but never least, Pisces Rising. How are you? How are you? You've got Neptune at 29 degrees in your first house. So part of that energy is actually not yours. Okay. That's 15 years, but also 160 years of the window that people see you through, right? But it also comes with a lot of trauma with how people have experienced your family, right? Not just your direct family, but their family and their family and their family. So the more you take responsibility for how you want to be seen, the more that you embody the person that you want to be and really release childhood wounds that made you feel unworthy, the easier it is to show up as yourself, the easier it is to release all of this fucking ancestral generational family fucking bullshit, okay? But it is going to be a little bit of pressure on how people are seeing you and how you want people to see you, okay? Now, this full moon, very nice for you, right in the third house, gave you a voice, gave you a bit of shiny kind of energy when it comes to not close relationships, but people that you relate to, like your neighbors, maybe even siblings that you don't see a lot, or people that kind of feel like siblings, like cousins, that kind of thing. But you would have had a lot of chaos happening in your family, right? A lot of chaos happening in your family, probably since July. Okay, that's going to calm down a little bit, and you're going to start getting that chaos with whatever that full moon just shown you. Okay. Now, the way that your chart reads, babes, is that you are moving into your most aligned career energy, and it is going to be fucking busy, booked, and hectic. Okay. So that's where we see your family space starting to settle a little, but the whatever that full moon brought up in regards to communication, information giving and receiving, the way that people are receiving your information, what you're giving, that's about to explode. Okay. There is about to be Uranus in that third house, really closing out the last 8 years and like what it is that you have been looking at. So 3 of those years, you have had Saturn in your first house. Okay. So there's been like this big, heavy discipline to take responsibility for that chaos over the last 8 years. And there is this need to really lock in a new mentality, a new belief system, right? You might even be feeling like you need to learn something new about money, maybe about like how you talk about money. Maybe you need to learn something about like wheeling and dealing, right? Or marketing yourself, right? How am I doing that? How am I going to market myself? What sort of words am I going to use to describe myself, right? And how do those words then relate to like a value of who I am as a person, a value of the service that I've got to give. Okay. 10th house in Sag, right? You're meant to travel for work. So start looking at ways in which you can travel, right? You've got Mars just entered your 10th house. So there is motivation to be traveling. You're going to have the sun move into your 10th house on the 22nd, again, giving you another bit of motivation to travel. And I think you'll probably find by the end of the month, a real like opportunities starting to show themselves of you being able to travel either to study or for work, right? To learn something new or to find out something new or to work. Okay. So you are very transformed by relationships as well. And you've had Venus in your 8th house for the last just over a month, right? So yeah, couple of months, right? For the last couple of months, you've had Venus in your 8th house. So things have been transforming, and hopefully they've been doing so like in a balanced way, right? Not everything is going to have been good because, of course, we've got a lot of other fuckery going on, like Saturn in your first house, Neptune in your first house, okay? But all of that's shifting, right? So at the start of next year, you're really going to be having to look at how the past childhood wounds, generations, ancestral sort of stuff, how your family made you feel about your worthiness, right? And how your family felt about money and how they talked about money, right? So you're going to have Saturn start a fresh new cycle in your second house. Neptune will also be starting a fresh new cycle in your second house. There will be an overlap between February and June of Chiron still retrograding there. So there is going to be some childhood wound stuff that's like secretly been running authority and making you feel less than, but you are starting off this new journey. And so as you move through November, you want to make sure that you are like zooming out on your relationships, your one-on-one relationships that you maybe think these people can't help me, they're just my friends. Actually zoom out and see whether or not they can actually fucking help you, and zoom in on how you want people to see you on that window. Zoom in on some components of that. Like, how do you want people to see you, as an emotional person? How do you want people to see you as, an intelligence kind of mental based person, right? And really be like looking at those things. Like your family, quite hectic, right? A lot of fast moving energy within your family, a lot of like shadow side, light side kind of stuff. There's probably, fourth house Gemini people, Pisces rising, if your fourth house is in Gemini, there's often like a split down the family, right? Like a split down the family of like half these people don't talk to half these people. And so there's like a lot of chaotic energy around there, and everyone kind of has their own idea of things. And there's likely to have been, some kind of push pull when it comes to like the inner belief system around like investment money and family money and like building something. Okay. So 10th house in Sagittarius, like you are a truth seeker when it comes to your career and your work. So you are wanting to do the best thing that you possibly can and be the best at it, and to bring optimism, right? Like to bring optimism to people. Stop judging yourself, and stop being overly critical about the types of relationships you have with people and how you relate to them and your worthiness of having these relationships. You need to kind of let that go and just let it be. One of the things that you would struggle with, you got Pluto in your 12th house right now. So you've got this like shadow energy, this like king of the underworld wandering around in your shadow energy. And like, yeah, they're friends. Sure they are, but it's in Aquarius, right? So Aquarius, there's a bit of electricity to the Aquarius. There is a bit of a looking at everything in a big kind of way, right? And so you're really being asked to go into the depths and allow that authentic weirdo to come out, whatever that looks like for you. And that can be a bit difficult when, you've got a 10th house in Sag. So you want to bring optimism to people for work. So what's in the shadow can feel very scary, especially because with the Pisces first house, you can see through people's masks. And it really does make you a bit of a lie detector when it comes to that. You can kind of see what people are hiding just from the way that they show up. And fifth house in Cancer, like a lot of the times, when you're trying to have fun, especially if you're trying to have fun with your family, it can bring up feelings. So you might have fun and then you end up with feelings, right? I don't want feelings. And so that can be really difficult to have fun. But Jupiter in your fifth house makes it a bit easier to have fun. Jupiter about to retrograde in your fifth house means it kind of slow down a little bit and really enjoy like things that make you feel nurtured, things that make you feel safe at home, right? Really start enjoying those things, especially while kind of this chaos comes into your third house of communication. And if you are someone who uses social media, online marketing, that sort of stuff, just be aware that like that third house is about the giving and receiving of information, and it can involve technology. So if you've got Uranus jumping in there, Uranus also involves concepts of technology. There could be some fuckery with that. So just be really careful with posting things and emails, and be checking your be checking the spam. There could be important things coming in through that space, especially because Mercury retrograde is going to be in your 9th and 10th house. So it is going to involve like learning and travel and the work space, right? So you have a bit of fuckery in communication. There might be like something that you miss, right? You might miss out on an opportunity if you're not like checking those sorts of things. Just with the Neptune around in your first house as well, things can be a bit hazy and they might get forgotten. So that's my advice for you, Pisces rising. Okay. And that's really all I've got for you. Okay. November is huge. Okay. As always, I will advise everyone who has not had a birth chart reading to get one. to get one. Get one that you understand. Don't go and ask a fucking AI, right? Astrology is information, but the work of astrologers is an art, all right? The work of astrologers is in the interpretation and the storytelling, and it is in the intuition. And, I'm happy to do a pre-recorded birth chart reading, but I would always highly advise a video call. All right. Because that way we're there together. You can ask questions. I can ask questions. We can form the story together. But I'm absolutely totally fine with doing a recorded one. I've got a number of different options. Make sure if you want the astrology, you lean into the energy readings or the birth chart. And if you want the tarot, you go into the tarot. They're two kind of different services. If you want both, astromancy is the way to go, because then I can use everything. Okay. We are moving into a very spiritual time. Okay. December is going to be interesting with Lilith moving into Sagittarius. So the dark energy, the feminine energy, the spicy energy, the energy of uncovering secrets is really what we are looking at for November. So be careful with what you say to people that you don't trust, and really be trying to form your own adventure with yourself to be able to uncover all of the dark, spicy, shadowy things about you, because Pluto in Aquarius says that our authenticity is power right now, but it also says that we will have a fear around showing that to people because of judgment. Okay. And Pluto opposing Leo energy, that can really impact how we express our personal creativity. So the push pull, the opposition, the tug of war, the fight for dominance that's kind of going on in that power fear space is really about, Leo, the sun, the center, and Aquarius sitting on the outside looking down at everyone. So Aquarius understands that everybody is different. It's okay being different, but Leo is in the center and everyone is looking at it. So it has this like perfectionist, this like fear of like, what if I can't make people feel good? What if they don't see me as perfect? What if they don't like me? But Aquarius is like, meh, we're all weird and different. So let's be that. Okay. And that's what we need to be. All right. So I'll see you on the socials. Jump in my DMs if you've got questions about appointments. And yeah, I highly advise every single person to get a birth chart reading. Trust me. Okay. Because the North Node will be with Pluto next year. So that's going to be a fucking time, and you will be forced to be your weirdo self. So you probably want to know what's stopping you. Okay. As always, stay weird.